So MetaMouse is a toolkit that takes existing single-player educational games and automatically makes them multiplayer, multi-mouse games with no source code access. We have a talk coming up. There's a demo in the demo room and another talk at Dev.
There's been a lot of interest in using multi-user input for educational devices in countries where there's a lot of students and not enough computers for those students to use. If you're interested in making those devices adaptive for each student, find out more information about this, come talk to Mom.
Is PowerPoint the best tool for teaching? Which is why researchers from Maxwell Research India present a new presentation tool designed specifically for teaching in primary and secondary schools. It's called Collage.
So you have an application for challenging network environments where bandwidth is low, latency is high, and packets get dropped all the time. And say this application can benefit from a market layer. So what we have for you is a generic auction-based market platform with a set of developing interfaces that developers can use to incorporate this services into their applications pretty easily. My talk is tomorrow morning. You don't want to miss it.
Open Data Kit is a set of free tools that are used all over the world to make data collection easier. Come to our talk if you want to find out why we built ODK, who's using it, and what they're using it for. Thanks. Oh, there's like a demo that's really awesome.
I spent 50 hours watching non-literate women do vacuum cleaning. Exciting? Nah. But I did learn that there are cognitive barriers which prevent these women from applying what they see in an instructional video to actually learning vacuum cleaning skills. Come to our talk at 2 p.m. tomorrow to hear more about these cognitive barriers, or if you're plain interested in vacuum cleaning.
Good morning. In most ICT for education projects in developing countries, teachers, unfortunately, are an afterthought. In Macedonia, however, this was not the case. Teachers received some of the best training I've ever seen. So why aren't they using computers in the classroom? I think I have the answer, but you need to come to the session and see.
Violence, anchor, anchor, late, leap. Did you hear a difference between these words? So does our system. With Spring, we aim to make pronunciation for immigrant Hispanic children more intelligible. Please visit our talk tomorrow at 2 to learn more about Spring.
The bank account is not enough for financial inclusion, at least empty ones. As we continue to learn in ICTD, enabling access to a resource is not the end of the development story. Drop by tomorrow to find out why rural farmers in India are not fully utilizing their bank accounts.
There was this case study in Tanzania of a hairdresser who stayed for 2 years to get a cell phone. And when she got the cell phone, she only used it to receive calls from her clients. She didn't use it for social purposes. At a certain stage, it was even stolen. She had to save for 1.5 years again. But now, she has an income of $300 a month, well above the poverty line. But to look at these to look at these type of case studies brings out the human and makes visible that it's human minds behind all those so-called phenomena we cannot explain.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To perhaps amplify what Ineke is saying, I think the concepts of ICTs in relation to humans as either consumers or users dehumanizes the entire impact of what ICT is doing to human relations. I'll draw on the conversation between Gloria Bonda and Philip Tigo. Gloria Bonda suggests that ICTs are more than just tools, that they are an entire social construct, a third universe, if you want to see it that way, on which you have a whole social, political framework that is really influencing the way humans behave and the way humans are relating to each other.
Yeah.
Philip Tigo, on the other hand, you know, argues also that they're just tools that are a means of doing things. And he comes from a perspective of the one who designs the applications, you know. But this kind of dialogue has to continue.
So for young people interested in technology and development, what would you advise them right now? Like for somebody just coming from university, what would you advise them to do?
I think, you know, think about what you believe in, what kind of world you would like to grow up in. As in, it sounds silly, but I think we're all growing up in that sense. We're still figuring out what kind of world we'd like to see in a decade, 2 decades time, and so on. And technology will help shape that world, or will help us shape that world. And so the way I think we should think about it, including particularly young people, because they've got a lot of decades to come, is to think about, hang on, what kind of world do I want to live in? And therefore, what kind of technologies, how should the technology be shaped to allow that world to happen? And critically examine the technology, whether this is a technology that basically undermines that world, or it supports it. And there's negotiations there, there's discussions between, you know, individuals and groups, and there's going to be discussions around power and conflict and money and all of these kind of things, but we need to have these discussions, and we need to have them in a sense that we start with what world is possible and what world we want. And then we get back to, okay, what technological needs are, and not the other way around.
I also have another personal question. As I'm a rather young person and I would like to engage myself actually in bettering the world in any way.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like I just don't know enough of the consequences of my actions, so that I can, you know, contribute anywhere with making sense. So would you rather say you know, as a person, I mean, nobody knows everything, of course, but you can still study more so that the side effects are lessened. But
yeah, no, I think that's a very nice question. I have thought about that particular question, and my response is to say that we never know the consequences of our actions. So I give a talk this morning, you know, what sort of consequences, I can't measure it. I don't know, you know, the way it affects other people. If I take any action, I'm not sure about the consequences of that action, no matter how much one is read and no matter how many grey hairs you have, you can't do that prediction. The question is, are you trying hard enough? Mm-hmm. You know, it's to do with personal process, isn't it? Are you trying hard enough by trying your best to read things and to understand things, trying your best to listen to what others are saying so that you actually are learning from them. And then, once you've done that, then taking action in a particular context, you can only take the best action that you perceive at that point in time with your current knowledge. You can't get it right. I mean, because someone then has to define what's meant by right, and that's contentious. So for me, it's a matter of are you trying to learn? You know, for example, if you give a talk, people, it's just an illustration since we're talking about the talk. You know, people are very kind and say pleasant things sometimes, and that's good. But you also ought to try to be looking for, you know, criticism is more valuable than praise, actually. If people praise you, it's all very well, but if you know, if you get a critique of your work or your critique of your ideas, that's the time to be listening really carefully, because that's the time at which you start to learn. And that applies as much to me as it applies to you, regardless of age. Because if you reach a point, in fact, some people talk about age, well, the body ages, but where your mind ages is if you stop trying to learn, if you stop trying to listen. And particularly if you're operating in these domains like technology, you know, I mean, how could you possibly remain up to date in just that field if you don't make some effort to learn and to listen? Two of my children actually are techies. They're proper real ones, and I learned lots of technology from them. You know, because I try to learn from them so that I don't come across, you know, a danger when you're older as being somebody who knows nothing about technology. So you try. So I need to learn the same way as you do. Of course, trying to pick what it is that you're deficient in, and to try and strengthen that is always a task for all of us, isn't it? a sort of trying to think carefully about which areas of one's own endeavour one is trying to strengthen. But then from that, one can't be always obsessed about the consequences because they're very hard to fathom. One needs to just then take action with the best, one hopes, the best of intentions. Hope that that's positive.
Thank you very much. Encouraging words.
Okay. Pleasure.